Hi, I'm Johanna Lee, and today I wanted to talk about 3 ways that Google Sheets can be used to format accounting financial statements. And so, hopefully, if you're not an accountant, this is still useful, and these 3 things you might use in your day to day use of Google Sheets, or if it's not day to day, on occasion. So, the first thing that I want to show you is something that is pretty frustrating that Google Sheets doesn't have, and that is indentation. So as you can see on the screen here, I'm on the SEC's website to look at a financial statement. You can see this really commonly in statement of cash flows for companies where separate subtotals are incorporated within the statement itself. So as you can see here on the screen, we have net loss, adjustments, indentation, and so on and so forth. And so there is not a quick way to do this. What I've been taught in the past is to just enter spaces in those lines ahead of time. There is a little bit of a different way to do it, and so I kind of want to show you guys that first. So if I go over to a new data set and copy and paste, what we just saw into Sheets, this is how it shows up. However, these are no longer indented like they are in the formal filing that they have for Allbirds. And so what I want to do is I want to highlight the things that I want to indent. So for example, the changes in assets and liabilities, these are the changes that I want to indent further in because those are what make up the subtotal. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Format and I'm going to go to Number. And then I'm going to click Custom Number Format. And here is where you kind of get some options that they have already suggested. But the way to indent is to come up with how many spaces you want in between. So say I want 5 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'll put an @ symbol here and then apply. So as soon as I do that, you can see that it's indented 5 spaces there. And then because I created that custom formatting, the way that I can access this again is I can go to Number and it'll show up right here. So I can go to a separate section of the doc and say I want 5 indents as well there. What I can do is I can click here and it'll indent as well. So I use this quite a bit in my work just to make things a little bit more cohesive and readable. So a lot of my job has to do with looking at different sheets of numbers as you go along a spreadsheet. And so this indentation to indicate subtotals is really, really helpful. So that is the first thing, the indentation. It's super easy on Excel, not as prevalent or easily accessible on Sheets. The second thing that I think is really helpful in Excel is to hit Alt equals and it will automatically sum a row. And it's really useful and helpful. I use this quite a bit when I'm opening spreadsheets. So the statement of cash flows, it should have a sum for operating activities, investing, and financing. And so when I copy and paste this from a website, it's just going to create the values and not the formulas. So I kind of want to see how things change and make sure that this is formula driven and everything is updated if I change net loss, for example. So normally I would do Alt equals, which is really helpful, but there is a similar feature in Sheets that you can use. What you want to do is you want to highlight all of the fields that you're looking at to sum, and you're going to hit this formula bar here and hit sum, and it'll guess what you want to sum up. So for example, if I highlight everything, it's pretty clear and giving Google the indication that I want to sum that up. And so I'll hit enter. Another way though is you can click sum and it'll guess. So for example, this is guessing that I'm gonna sum across. That's not really what I want to do. I want to sum above to top to bottom. So that's just 2 ways to kind of use that feature, whether you're highlighting all the things you want to sum or you're just clicking on a cell and then hitting that and having it do the guesswork of where it wants to create that formula. So that is the second thing, is using the sum feature in the utility bar above. The third and final thing that I want to demonstrate is going to be the double underline. So for those of you that are in accounting or use financial statements or really are just familiar with this feature, the final subtotal. So as we mentioned before, we have a lot of subtotals within the cash flow for operating, investing, and financing. But then at the very end, we're going to look at the total cash in and out for the period. So you're going to need to format that and indicate it by a double underline at the bottom. So you'll see this a lot in financial statements is kind of where I see it, but I also use it in my budget just to kind of bring attention to that final number that is made up of multiple subtotals. So in Google Sheets, the traditional way that you do this is you create a top line, a bottom line, and then you change that bottom line to a double underline. And so, it's not really, it's kind of bulky. And so the way that you can do this a little bit faster is you can do a hotkey shortcut, which is going to be Alt-Shift-1 to do the top row, right is 2, bottom is 3, and left is 4. So you're kind of going around the horn there. So it's a little bit faster, but you still have to switch out the formatting there. So for example, if I am on the single format and I do Alt-Shift-1, 2, 3, 4, I'm getting this single line. And then if I switch over to the double underline, which is at the very bottom here, and I do Alt-Shift-1, 2, 3, 4, I'm getting a double underline across the whole border. So there's always this kind of manual effort that you need in order to go up to the border line and then make sure that that is different from the top border and then the bottom border. So a good way to kind of get around this and actually make it as fast as possible is to create a macro. And I've done this here. So my macro keystroke is Alt Control Shift 1. And that's because the Alt Control Shift is the default for macros, and then you create that last character in order to run your macro. So as you can see it running in the background, when I click Alt Control Shift 1, it says running script and finish script. And the way to do this is you go up into extensions and you go to macros and record macros. And what you're going to want to do while you're recording is you're going to use relative references, and you're going to do the top row and make sure that that is a regular border. And then you're going to do the bottom border and make sure that is a double bottom border, and you click save. And so that is where you save your new macro. I already have this created, so I'm not going to be saving over the top of my macro that I ran, but this is the easiest way I found to kind of incorporate maybe a complex format that you use that takes multiple clicks. So if you find yourself doing this in Google Sheets, I would definitely encourage you to do the macro feature and in order to be more efficient at, whatever formatting that you find yourself doing on a routine basis. So Google Sheets can seem really informal. I was at work the other day and one of my coworkers was like, I don't like the Google products because it just seems really casual. It's not like a professional thing like Outlook or Microsoft. And I can kind of see where she's coming from, but there are ways to kind of transition that into something for your benefit. So, the collaborative nature of Google Sheets is really awesome for my job. And so in order to kind of emulate that professional experience, these are 3 ways that you can use Google Sheets in order to get the formatting of a financial statement in something like Sheets. So I hope some of these were helpful. I know my family watches this, if not only my family watching this. So let me know in the comments if you would ever see yourself using one of these 3 tools. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.